And we will start the meeting, as we always do, by honoring our nation with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And it looks like our first order of business today will be a request for additional appropriations by Scott Wagner. Scott, if you would either come forward, or if you have a voice that carries, that would be fine. It has been requested from people who watch our meeting on YouTube that sometimes they're unclear on who's speaking or who they're with or who they represent. So if you could please just start off by telling us who you are and what you represent for us today. And we know that, obviously, but it's for the people at home that are watching on YouTube. Sometimes they get lost in the fray of not being able to see a face because the cameras aren't real close up. So if you would, please.
Scott Wagner, Whitley County Health Department. Last fall, we applied for and received a grant from Indiana SACHO, that's the state, cities and counties health officials. This is for opioid awareness. If you haven't heard, opioid crisis is pretty hard in Indiana as well as the United States. Now kills more people than vehicle accidents do, at over 53,000 last year. So what we've done with this money, that's why we're coming here for today, to get a line item approved so we can put that grant money in that line item, as well as money that we're receiving from Parkview Foundation in a total sum of $3,000 over the next 4 quarters. This money will be used to host 2 parent university meetings along with Whitley County Consolidated next Wednesday, April 11th, and then May 16th. The 11th at Mary Raber, the 16th at the middle school, to inform parents and students on the opioid awareness. It's for materials that we'll hand out at that time, as well as provide money for a program which consolidated schools wish to implement regarding Miami Village mobile home kids, keeping them after school and feeding them a snack, as well as giving them help with schoolwork, as well as providing materials about opioid awareness. So asking today to have that additional line item approved so we can put money in there for over the next year.
Okay, so you're not asking us for money out of the county general. You've been given money and you need a line item to put it in.
Correct.
To be accountable for it.
Right.
Very good. I would entertain a motion.
Well, I have a question. Jen, is that a problem for him to put a line item in his budget for that?
As long as you guys.
Make a motion that we approve the line item for the health department.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I call for further discussion.
I got a question. You said that they're setting up a program, after-school program for kids from that mobile home park. Is that just them, or is it open to anybody?
Right, so that would be the beginning program to start with those kids, about 23 kids, elementary and middle school age. They like to keep them, if they're elementary at the Y, if they're middle school at the center, till about 6 o'clock that evening, and then the school system would use their own transportation to take them back home at that time. They're currently meeting with the parents of Miami Village, and as long as they can get approval for that, and it seems like it's okay for them, then they'll be keeping them the rest of this year and then the next year as well. And so we're partnering with Parkview to help with snacks and food for them as well, and then materials for opioid awareness and other things.
Would that be open to any other kid who would need that, or?
Possibly. So if this goes well, and it seems like it's working well, then the next step is Park Terrace.
Okay.
Now, who initiated that, school or
So the grant or the program?
the program?
Okay, so we started last fall. Dr. Gilliam, who's our health board president, started the Whitley County Opioid Task Force. He felt like, Allen County has a severe problem, that we're next. So we started meeting together as a community group, about 30 of us all together, and we decided that we want to partner with the schools to influence the younger ages first. They're the ones that don't seem to be in the fray yet, but we start counting opioid issues about 15 on, so we want to catch them early. Kind of like the old DARE program that we used to have, since that's kind of reared its head now. So that's what we're hoping to accomplish, is start younger with the kids. If it works well with them, all the materials that we have is already online, and we can start using that as a classroom element as well.
A follow-up then, You mentioned Whitley County Community Schools, the other school systems. Are you going to?
We'll reach out to them, yeah, as long as this starts working, we'd want to reach out to them as well.
So in the future, Smith Green and.
Right, we would like to, yes. Whitley County has seen an increase in overdoses from 2016 to 2017, but it's nowhere near the other counties yet.
Is there a reason why we're targeting certain,
Age groups right now,
yeah,
simply because they seem to not have the statistics. Looks like we do have high school kids being influenced by that, and college, obviously, and older. The mean age is 24 to 35 is the worst for epidemic right now. But we are wanting to catch them early. They seem to be more influential. We can influence them better. And so we start with them first. If it works, then we'll go through every different age group to do that. So it's a lot of time. It's a big effort. We're just trying to program here and see what we can do with that. You'll probably be seeing a lot more money coming down from the federal government for this issue. So.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to create the line item for Scott at the Health Department to put the money into for his education program, please respond by raising your right hand. And all those opposed, the same. And it did pass unanimously with all members present.
Thank you.
And our next item on the agenda then will be a highway update with Brandon Forrester. And Brandon, if you could please, when you come up, like I said, introduce yourself and tell us who you're with.
Name's Brandon Forrester, county engineer, department head for engineering and the highway department. And I'm going to give you the good news, bad news approach. The good news is you've got a short agenda. The bad news is I've got a lot to talk about. The good news is I'm not going to ask for any decisions today. The bad news is I'll be back next month to ask for some decisions. So I just wanted to give you the information.
We're going to give you all of our attention. The bad news is you have 7 minutes.
7 minutes. Okay.
No, you go right ahead.
We've been working on our road plan. For starters, we've hopefully are through the winter season. We'll see what happens there. We have done the Paiser ratings for every segment of every road, and we have to do that. A, it's a good planning tool, but B, it's part of the community crossings grant requirement. You have to do those ratings and prepare a 5-year plan. Of course, that plan is, basically going to be changed every year because conditions change. And so that's kind of what started this process, is we got our Paiser ratings done. We're working on, what are we going to do this year? We've got a plan right now, and that plan, depending on how things pan out, we would like to do some work on about 100 miles of road, and that varies from chip sealing to wedging and leveling some roads up and sealing those, doing some crack sealing in some subdivisions.
Brian,
Yes.
100 miles, what's that compared to what you did last year?
Last year we did a little over 100 miles, about 103, depending on how you look at it. Some roads we double sealed, so centerline miles we were about 103 if you count, when we double sealed it, because when you look at the money, it was more than that as far as lane miles, but that's what we're looking at. And we're anticipating a project next year for Community Crossings grant. We would actually do the work next year, but we would apply. They haven't had a call for projects yet through that program, but we're looking at a big project and doing some preparation this year in the hopes that we get some additional funding for that project.
a little bit of perspective, you're talking about doing about 1/6 of the county's roads, roughly.
Yeah,
That's pretty good, really.
that we've got 630 miles total that we maintain, and about 80 miles of that are gravel roads. So that leaves 550 miles of hard surface road. And we have been doing some improvements to gravel roads. Once the frost come out of the ground this year, some of those roads got almost treacherous with the soft soils. And I know I was out one day looking at high water because we got all that rain on top of that frozen ground, and I was out on 850 West that was flooded out, and the roadbed was actually cracked. Clay, when it dries out, it shrinks and cracks open. A gravel road shouldn't do that. I mean, that road was a dirt road, not a gravel road. So we've hauled some material to that and several others, which is another part of what my ongoing requests will be, and part of this whole plan, because we spent, not a huge amount, but we've spent a little bit of money on 73 limestone to try and get those gravel roads, dirt roads, back in a little better shape.
Brandon, I think you told me that on Whitley Road, you used a different material because of horse traffic,
We did, yes.
and I think that's really holding up good. Would that be feasible to use on other roads too, to make it last longer or not? Is it more expensive?
It's not any cheaper, and I'm not as much of a fan on it. The crushed limestone, you get good skid resistance, and if you've driven the roads in the winter that we've recently chip sealed, I know, I can turn off of Old Trail onto 600 East, and it's like night and day, because you get good skid resistance on that limestone chip sealed road, and then you turn on to 600 where it hasn't been chip sealed in quite a while, and it's slick because the stone has worked its way down. Some of the asphalt is kind of bled up, and I like the limestone myself.
Well, what'd you put on the Whitley Road?
That's pea gravel.
Oh.
And it is inherently harder material, and so it is more resistant to the buggy traffic, the horse shoes. There's a lot of PSIs, those big Clydesdales on a little piece of metal. So it works well for that, but again, it comes down to that skid resistance, and the price isn't that much better. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. But so one thing that we learned this winter is that we used a lot of material, salt and ice grit. And we used a lot of man hours because it seems like most of the snowstorms we got were on the weekends and holidays, and so definitely next month I will be here to ask for additional appropriations, because the salt line item and the overtime line item are in the red already. I know we're only through the first quarter, but like to get those out of the red, get that taken care of. We used, or we bought, and this goes back into 17, because we started, obviously preparing for the winter, but we purchased over 1,200 ton of salt and about almost 5,000 ton of grit. We mix those for most roads, but I think that people saw the results of that material, and I certainly don't think it was money wasted.
Brandon, does the weather dictate on how you mix that or how you use the salt?
It can, but our standard, we mix it at 4 to 1. Four grits to 1 salt, and that works pretty well. We we will have basically two piles. One will be at a 12-to-1, and we use that on gravel roads. We don't want as much salt on the gravel roads because they tend to turn to mush. The other benefit to pre-mixing that is that pile then won't freeze. If you don't get some salt in that pile, it'll be a clump, and then when you need to mix it, you're dealing with those clumps. So that 12-to-1 keeps it from freezing. We can use it on gravel roads, and then we'll remix it at what turns into 4-to-1. And that seems to work pretty well. This ice grit material that we're getting is a little coarser than sand, and it helps with that skid resistance. If you come up, we certainly concentrate on intersections with that material and curves and hills, but you can tell when you come up on an intersection that's been hit with that stuff versus one that hasn't, because you got a lot better stopping ability. So.
But on Lincoln Way, you do something different, don't you?
On Lincoln Way, we've got the five busiest roads are Business 30 East and West, Lincoln Way East and West, and our 800 East county line with Allen County. And those 5 roads all are, I'm going to say, between 2,000 and about 3,800 vehicles a day. And we started this year with using just straight salt on those roads. And we also were using some treated salt. It's treated with calcium chloride. It costs a little more, but it's better at lower temperatures. And some of these storms that we got that snow, and it might not have been that bad, but then it turned into teens and single digits, and at 4-to-1 grit and salt, it won't do much at those temperatures. So that treated.
That's always been my thought. When it's real cold, sometimes you just need grit rather than salt, because snow at that temperature a lot of times will just blow off with traffic. You need it maybe in the intersections.
Well, sometimes it will, yes. Sometimes the traffic will actually warm that pavement and it turns it to ice. Even with just an inch of snow, it'll overnight, it'll turn on you. So ideally, the best way to do it is like the state does. You get that stuff melted off, you got good drainage, you get it drained off, and your pavement will dry out and you don't have problems. But we certainly cannot afford to spend the amount per mile that the state does. So we're kind of, we've picked the busy roads where there's a lot of traffic, and I think it's worked well. I know we've heard compliments from people coming and going to Kosciuszko and Allen County that there were times when our Lincoln Way was in better shape than the other county's roads. So I like to hear those kind of things. We are talking about, the safety of the traveling public, and that is a major responsibility of ours to provide for as best we can. So, I will be back to ask for money to get those line items out of the red. We still have 2 guys on call every week, 24/7 through the rest of the year. So we're going to need, trees come down and things happen. We had guys out on Good Friday. It was a holiday for everybody else, but we had a culvert out on 400 East south of 30 that sucked a big hole in the road. So they were out there and had to shut the road down. It was that bad. So I'm going to need more money as we get further down, or we can try and anticipate what we're going to need and do that next month. But then we're also going to need to prepare for next winter, so we're going to need more money for salt for next winter also. So, and we can, there's more to it than that. Now, we are storing our salt currently in a building that was not built to be storing salt. It's a metal siding, you've got metal garage door and track, and we put the precast concrete blocks in there as walls to contain the salt, and when it's packed, we can get about 400 ton in there. We participate in the state bid salt contract. We committed to 480 ton last year, knowing that, we don't want to store it outside because when it rains, it just washes away. Having used a lot more material this year, we were in some kind of nervous situations because there was a point when Allen County couldn't get sand or salt. They had committed to 5,000 ton and couldn't get their second 1,000 ton of salt at one point. And so we were calling around everywhere we could, talking to everyone we could, trying to find salt, and we did, but we had to pay for it. The first, call it 500 ton we got, we paid $56 a ton. And we got a couple hundred more ton from the same supplier, but we were not obligated by contract anymore, so we paid $60 a ton for that. When that dried up and they wouldn't return our phone calls anymore, we found another source and we were paying $90 a ton. So what we've said is it's better to have spent $90 a ton and had it than to not have had it, because that would not have been good. So what we really need to do is construct a salt storage facility, and we have looked at 3 different options. Going into this, my first straight ahead thinking was we need a treated timber salt storage building, and that's what a lot of counties use. I know we went up LaGrange here last year and looked at theirs. It's a good product. It's guaranteed for 20 years, 25 years, and it's storing salt. We looked at another option, which I wasn't keen on in the beginning, but when you look at the price, it kind of seems more attractive, keeping in mind that you get what you pay for. But there's, I call it a tarp arch. It's literally a tarp. You build a steel frame arch, and we've got a catalog one of our guys brought in. They're using these for ag purposes, hay storage, equipment storage, even some livestock applications. And some counties are using this for salt storage. And you can build walls with these precast blocks and sit that arch on there, and it will keep cover on your salt. In talking with an engineering company that deals with these timber structures, they were called to be consultant for Grant County, and they went down and looked at one of these tarp arches. Engineer told me that they couldn't even see the structural members where there were connections because it was so corroded, and I can just picture that it was just a glob of corrosion. So, that's what you get with that. Salt and metal don't mix. That's what we're trying to get away from. The salt in this building it's eating it up. And that's where the timber structure is the best option out there. We also looked at, a pole building, and talked with the local pole building contractor, told him what we were wanting to do, and he said, well, by the time you do what you need to do to protect that building, you're going to have close to as much as if you bought the timber building. And I said, I appreciate you being honest, straight up with this. So that is something that we really need to, it would be comforting to go into the winter season knowing that you've got enough salt to deal with winter, instead of in the middle of the season be scrapping and hoping you can find material and then not knowing what you're going to have to pay to get it. What I've told people is, anyone who's on propane, you want to buy your propane in July, not in January. And it's the same thing with salt, so.
Brandon, what can you buy salt for right now?
Actually, they're in the bidding process, so I mean, I haven't shopped for it right now. I know last year it was $56 a ton, and it's a commodity, it's, supply and demand. We'll see. I think the state bid runs from July to July, so here in the next couple months, we'll know what the locked-in price is gonna be for the 18-19 season. But
Brandon, because we had a couple mild winters, or 2 or 3, whatever it was, did you buy less salt this last summer than you did than you normally would, or not?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And when I said we bought 1,200 ton, we had probably 3 or 350 ton left over from the year before. So we put down more than 1,200 ton. We got, I'm gonna say probably 130 to 150 ton left right now. So, yeah, boy, if we've got a salt storage facility that's full and we only use a quarter or a half of it, that's money in the bank. It's not gonna eat itself, and it'll be there for next year, and we are in a position where we know going in to the salt bid season that we don't need to commit to 1,000 ton, because, if we've got reserve, then, it's money in the bank.
Then,
Point.
the building you're using right now, is it beyond repair, or is it something that you can utilize if you was to build a new building?
It is not beyond repair. I'm gonna say it doesn't need immediately, but it's gonna need a new garage door. I mean, there's holes rusted through the bottom of the garage door, and the tracks are rusting, and I would put that, probably a couple years down the road, especially in light of everything else that we're looking at doing this year.
But you could utilize it for something.
Absolutely, and that is another part of this big picture plan that we're looking at. In the last 3 years, we've purchased 3 new tandems. We've purchased a new chip spreader. We purchased a new used grade all. We've got some other miscellaneous equipment that we're going to be utilizing for gravel road maintenance. Anybody that's driven Business 30 East in the last couple days has noticed that there were some, that's concrete pavement below there, and it heaves up at the joints, and there's bumps, and I've been hearing about it from guys that drive fuel and guys that plow snow and guys that pull trailers. Those bumps were getting bad. We've got a piece of equipment, and we're knocking those down, and we're getting thank yous from people already that noticing that.
Brandon, have you got housing for all your equipment? I mean, nothing sets out.
We do not, and that's another.
If you had a new building, would you use this existing building then to get that stuff inside?
Absolutely.
One
Yeah,
of the
that's
things-
another win to this.
One of the things that comes to my mind is, sounds like you're leaning toward a treated lumber building, but then how do you protect the fasteners and whatnot from rusting apart and the building falling down?
Well, they're all treated after installation, actually. All the brackets that are used are coated in asphalt, and everything, because there's nails and bolts.
Correct, and they're gonna corrode.
Yeah, it all gets treated post-installation with the asphalt coating. I mean, there's no way that you can absolutely, completely protect it. That's why there's still limited, it's not guaranteed for life, nothing is, but they definitely have considered that.
Have you got a timeline on when we could have that building in use?
I'm thinking September, October at the latest. We certainly, we want to get it up and get it stocked so we're ready for next winter. And that's, October is when we start thinking about getting material in. No, certainly November at the latest, but we've all seen it snow on Halloween before, so you don't want to wait too late. I don't want to be scrapping with a contractor to get that thing put up in December. So, you know, that's a huge expense. It's, I don't have hard numbers for you. I mean, to get truly hard numbers, we'd with a project of that scope, we'd have to take bids, you know, public competitive bidding. I'm kind of looking for you know, a consensus to move forward. You know, we can get some, right now what I have is ballpark estimates. For the size of building that we're looking at, 40 by 80, the ballpark estimate for materials is 200,000, and then, you know, off the cuff, you can double that for, you know, installation. And then we also have to put a floor in, and then on the ends, you know, have some kind of a concrete approach, because you've got that loader coming in and out, and trucks backing up to dump material and that. So, you know, we're looking at concrete floor. We're looking at, I'm in contact with the ready mix company right now to find the appropriate admixtures for that concrete. There are products out there where there's fiber that you can introduce to that concrete that you can put in that will eliminate the need for reinforcing steel. Again, we're trying to get away from steel because we're storing salt, and so also with a floor that size, you've got to cut the concrete to create crack points. If you don't, it'll crack randomly, and wherever it cracks, that salt's going to leach down, and if you've got reinforcing steel, it's going to eat it up. So there's another admixture that will seal the pores. Concrete is porous. And if you can seal them pores, then you can reduce the amount of where that salt's going to leach down in there. So we're working on that. You know, that stuff isn't free. You know, concrete's not cheap anymore. So.
How about funding? You're talking about 400,000 plus. to do
Right.
that.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Okay.
I would think almost a really thick asphalt mix for the floor would be better than concrete. Because of the lack of
Well,
oxidation.
with asphalt, it's also porous.
Right.
And I mean, I've worked with concrete contractors and asphalt contractors, and I've worked with Brooks Construction, does a lot of asphalt, and I had their paving foreman admit to me one time, asphalt's just temporary pavement, that concrete's the permanent stuff. And with those concrete admixtures, we can seal that off. You know, there's a trade-off. You know, do you put 8 inches of concrete or 15 inches of asphalt, you know, to get the same strength? And yeah, concrete is more expensive per ton, per cubic yard, however you measure it, but it's a lot more durable. I mean, it's going to last longer than asphalt. And I've seen where some you know, specs on structures, they will put an asphalt floor down.
I know that the fibrous part that they put in instead of re-rod doesn't hold up near as well. It's just, it was a good sales pitch, but
Well, you know, I'm talking with not just concrete suppliers, but concrete contractors, and there's different products, and you know, the length of the strand will make a difference. If you're just doing something, you know, for sidewalks, they'll put a 3/4 inch strand. Well, if you're doing something like we're talking, where you want that structural strength, you know, they'll put like 6-inch fibers, and there's all kinds of data out there that shows that anything, when you introduce fibers, it will increase the strength. Now, is it going to be the same as reinforcing? Well, you can over-reinforce concrete to where, you know, it will never go anywhere until it just, you know, 100 years or more. But we're looking at all options, you know. But I know that steel it's going to rust. There's no way around that, so. I've looked at our cash page balance. I've looked at our revenue history. I've looked, because we've gotten the new revenue from the 10-cent gas tax increase, and we've been receiving that for 6 months now. So the 6-month average, and that's over the winter. In theory, that's going to pick up a little bit in summertime. People start going on vacation, but that gas tax money goes into 2 funds: our highway fund and the local road and street. Our 6-month average for the highway fund is $285,720.31. Per month, yes. The 6-month average per month for local road and street, $52,190.43. And I have, if you take that over, take that times 12, local road and street has, what I'm saying is excess revenue to support the budget that we currently have. Right now we have $490,000 budgeted in local road and street, and the cash balance today is $360,000. So basically by June, we'll have enough money in that fund to fund the entire year's budget, and then everything after that will be either excess or contributing to next year's budget. In the highway fund, basically, to the difference of about $17,000, provided that the current average, $285,000, we continue on that trend, we have enough to fund the entire budget with just MVH, which means the $468,000 that we received for community crossings, that's like free money. That was a reimbursement. That was money that we spent on our chip seal projects last year. We already spent that money, and because that was an approved project, they reimbursed us, and we got a check, I don't remember the exact date, last fall, for $468,000. So in theory, there's the money. There's the money to pay for the salt barn.
You have any other plans for some of that excess?
I do, and it's like you're reading my mind, Bill. We are going to need some more money for stone and gravel. Like I said, we've bought more 73s for gravel roads this year. I've projected out we're going to need more money. I'm not going to ask for it next month. I want to get closer to chip seal season or even partway through it. Same thing with ice grit. That ice grit that we put on in the winter, that comes out of our stone and gravel line item. So I will need more money for that. Our local road and street fund, we have been in agreement with Allen County for a number of years now. The project is underway. It's going to happen. Whitley County will have its first roundabout, and that is going to be at 800 East and 900 South. And we basically committed to about $100,000, and that's a couple $1 million project. Don't quote me on that. Certainly more than $1 million.
Right there at that intersection, isn't there a house nice house right up there on that southwest corner of that T road?
There, yes.
Real close, isn't it, to the road?
There's southeast and northwest. But there's...
I meant the northwest corner.
Yeah, northwest corner, yeah. But there is nothing north of the existing road for this project. Everything is moved to the south.
But then Liberty Mills is just right there, a little jog, isn't it?
Yes.
No, well, that'll take in that whole, both intersections then?
Yep.
it seems like on that west side, on our side, don't it go down? The road, gotta be in the, kind of a hill there, isn't it?
That's why they hired an engineering consultant. It'll all
So,
be,
on that same subject, we take care of 14 to 114, is that our part of that County Line Road?
county line, it's all ours.
Well, I thought Allen County had part of it, and we had part of it.
No. It's
No, they
all,
helped us out in the
it's
past.
our road by state statute to maintain. Each county maintains its south and east border. But because everyone realizes that a lot of the traffic on that road is Allen County traffic, you know, they're bringing subdivisions out Bass Road now all the way to the county line. They have always participated.
I guess I always thought they had half of it and we had half of it.
Yeah, no, some people, when you drive down south of SDI towards Bass Road, which we're gonna improve that because that's breaking up right
A lot
now.
of holes in there, I just was on it the other
Yeah.
day.
I mean, you can tell the difference. Southbound, that pavement's broke up worse than northbound. And I've heard people comment that Allen County keeps better care of their half than we do. I would tend to believe that the loaded trucks head south, the unloaded trucks head north, but yeah, it's ours. And as part of our commitment to that project, we owe them money. And there's a claim in Jana's office right now, $65,000. I didn't know where to pay it out of. I paid it out of local road and street, road improvements. So that's money that if I don't get an additional to cover, I've got to cut something out of our road plan. This is all good news. This is all good news because the money's there. I'm telling you, the money's there. After the meeting, I'm gonna sit down with Jana and we're gonna get this additional appropriation process started. The report that she generates comes from does it come from Gateway? Okay. It's gonna tell us what we've got for, additional revenue. And hopefully that'll give us the news that I'm looking at that says that we've got money to fund everything that I'm talking to you about today. I hope I'm not wrong, but if I am, we'll make adjustments. I also we need to do some crack sealing. We're looking, I don't know, we threw a number out there, start at $10,000. We picked about 4 miles of subdivisions that have been, were paved with asphalt and they're quite a few years old, and crack sealing is a proven good preventative measure, so I want to include that as part of our plan. Capital improvement is a line item in the highway budget as well as equipment. Talked to you about the salt barn. We'll work on that more, obviously. I mean, and if I see more of this than this, I can keep moving forward and get with those pliers and try and get some close to hard numbers and come back next month and if you're comfortable with the numbers that we can fund this, then we'll move forward and be prepared to do this project, I would say, in the fall. We'll be done chip sealing August, September, whenever it turns, as the weather goes, and I think that's a good time to do that project. So we've got time.
Well, I'd like to see some current numbers on it, Brandon,
Right.
before I can make a decision on it. But
Well, sure.
I'd like to give you the go-ahead to report back to the council. As far as I'm concerned, we gotta have some numbers so we know.
Well, sure, no,
We do too.
I understand
so.
that, absolutely, absolutely. And we're still working with the concrete, and alls I've got is ballpark estimates, so it's a starting point, What are we talking, 100,000 or, $1 million? Well, it's in between there. Another project that we've, as far as capital improvement, that we've talked about in the past, it kind of got put on the back burner with the realization we really need A, storage for equipment, and B, storage for salt. We talked about last year about getting the roofs of the existing buildings painted, because some of them are pretty rusted, and I spoke to a couple of you individually, and that I was reminded that we had talked about that, and right now the roofs aren't leaking, but they look bad, and B, we need to deal with that. So I actually did put $60,000 in the budget for this year to at least do part of that. We can certainly, still do part of that, I believe. Another issue that is something that's been discussed for a number of years, it was discussed when we bought the first piece of equipment, and it was brought up again within the last week, is a tank to store the oil that we use for our total patcher. Right now, our total patcher has about a 250-gallon tank, and we run it out and drive over to Warsaw and sit there and wait for it to be loaded and drive it back and fill up with stone, and it's just not the most efficient way to do it. Ideally, we would have some kind of a tank at our facility that we can come back in, get oil, get stone, head back out. Get 2 loads a day instead of 1. We started looking at options on that, and I'm going to say that's a $20,000 to $60,000 endeavor. $60,000, that's not much, right? Well, until you get 5 or 6 of them, and it all adds up. So that's a lot, I know, but that's what we're looking at the highway department. I believe we can fund all of this at some level, and I'll be back next month with better numbers and 4 more requests, at least for part of it. And
You do that, come back with what you need most first.
okay, yeah, sure, absolutely.
Brandon, on that roundabout, how long of a project is that when that starts? Well, it surely closes the road up.
They're closing the road on Monday, and
Well, that's already ready to start then.
oh, they've already started. Utility relocations and clearing right of way has already started last
Now,
fall.
Have you coordinated that, like with Allen County, to make sure that they don't have a lot of other road closings where it really screws traffic up, or?
Well, I don't know what Allen County is doing. I know that we don't have any road closings.
They were up on Bass Road doing some stuff I saw.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
down in there's an awful lot of people live there, and you get a lot of projects going the same area all at one time, and it's just almost hard to get out of your addition.
Yeah. Allen County is even though it's technically our road, the interlocal agreement that we have with them says that they are the lead agency. So, I'm attending, pre-construction meetings and utility coordination meetings and that, so that our interests are, represented. But they are the lead agency, and I don't know what projects they have going on. I know that we don't have any, on our side, any major, road
You say
closures.
that starts Monday, then when's your projected completion?
August.
August. So before winter, it'll be all done.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Brandon.
Oh, am I done?
Oh, I thought you were, I'm sorry.
Now we're getting to the good stuff. That was highway. In engineering, we have our field man that is doing a fine job, and almost to a fault, in that he has built a lot of really good relationships with contractors and landowners, and we're doing more up there than we ever have, just like we are at the highway. And not totally by his fault, but I mean he's kind of painted himself in the corner where, I mean, he's he's dedicated to that. He's taking calls at night, he's taking calls on weekends. I mean, he even, meets contractors until dark, and right now, things are busy. We've led a bunch of big projects, and, I mean, and I completely understand his position when he made the statement to me, you need to find me some help or find my replacement. Because I was in the exact same position back in about 2004, and I told the commissioners basically the exact same thing. I'm spinning my wheels, you need to get me some help. And I know the feeling, and I know that I've said it too. If I just give me another one of me, we can get 3 times as much done, and that's kind of where he's at. And so, engineering is a county general funded department. Highway department is completely funded from gas tax. Well, that's not completely true, but there is no Whitley County property tax money that goes to the highway department. County general, not 1 penny of county general money funds the highway department. It's all funded by, as far as generated revenue, by wheel tax and gas tax. Last year at budget time, I asked for a drainage project person and a truck driver. I want to again ask for, I kind of pressed on through the year with trying to get another truck driver and didn't get that, and we're making do, but I'm forced to be in the position to ask for a drainage assistant, a drainage project assistant, to be funded by the highway, that would part-time assist our engineering field man when there's matters related to county drains and culverts that affect the highway department. And that's my justification, that I believe we can pay for this position from the highway fund and not affect county general, or add staff to engineering, and be able to take some of the load off of him, because he is spending time dealing with highway matters that are drainage matters. But this person that I'm proposing would again assist with county drains, cross county roads, culverts. This person would help with surveying and coordinating with contractors, would do some investigation with when there's suck holes along the road. Is that a county tile, or what do we need to do to fix that problem? And then in the wintertime, that would be another warm body that could help plow snow. Which was what I was asking for last fall. We have 17 snow plow territories, and we have 17 guys to man those plows. So if one guy's sick or has a sick kid, now we're having to switch things around. Stuff's not getting done as quickly, and this would give us a little more flexibility. And again, I truly believe I can show you that the money's there, and we can fund this. And you certainly may be thinking, holy mackerel, how can you be asking for a $400,000 or $500,000 building, a new employee, and all this money for salt and everything else? And I'm telling you, and I hope I'm not wrong, I hope I'm right, I believe the money's there, and it will be, and it's going to continue to be, and A lot of it's the gas tax, and we've also got that extra revenue from community crossings. So I would, I'm loving the questions. Please ask more. I mean, whether it's today or over the next month, send me an email, give me a call, or if anyone wants to meet one-on-one and actually sit down and look at these numbers, I would be more than happy to come to your place,
Brandon,
wherever.
if we were to do what Noble County just did and take our wheel tax on passenger vehicles down to the minimum, how much would that affect your income? I don't even know what it is now. What are we paying now on passenger car?
It's $10.
Well, they took it to $7.50 as a minimum, didn't it?
You know, then so you would
What would that-
cut your rev, it'd be $100,000.
You'd lose 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, there's surtax and wheel tax, and the total is $400,000 a year that we receive.
But the passenger car only, changing that from 10 to 750 would you lose 100,000.
I'm not sure you can do that.
Well, they did it in Noble County.
I think Commissioner Schumpf has something to add to that.
I've just got some information. The state has told us that if we do cut our wheel tax, that could put our other grants in jeopardy, the community crossing
Community
grant.
Crossings.
Because of the fact that if we're not trying to help ourselves, they're not going to help us. That's what they've told us.
The selection process for awarding community crossings grant is not purely objective.
Well, most of the things that we do where we go to the state for money, the first thing they tell us is that you've done everything you can do.
Right.
And if you don't, you don't get it.
And they're getting to be sticklers on that now, because what they'll tell us is, if you're not going to help yourselves, we're not going to give you any additional monies.
I know that was the case in some of the things we did.
And that's part of that deal where the state doesn't want to raise taxes. They don't mind forcing us to. But
They don't.
Yeah.
You don't call the 10% gas tax, they don't want to raise tax?
well,
Yeah, but
Jesus.
nobody even noticed that. Nobody even noticed that.
I guess they don't drive out of state very often and see what the price of gas is.
Well, you know, gas went up 10 cents a gallon on July 1st. And most people didn't notice it because they're used to 20 to 30% gas increases. And when gas jumps up 30 cents a gallon overnight, and it's not a tax increase, that's just profit. That's profit. That gas didn't cost 30 cents a gallon more to make yesterday than it did today.
Well, I find it strange that I pay $2 to $2.15 in Oklahoma and Texas, and I come here and pay $2.60, $2.75.
Well, you can see,
Jesus.
Jim, you can see that difference from Columbia City to Fort Wayne. You can see 30 cents a gallon difference.
Not too long ago, I went to Warsaw, gas in Columbia City was $2.49, and Thurston was $2.69. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason that I can understand.
I can buy gas sometimes at Costco for 20, 30 cents a gallon, cheaper than the Shell station right next to it. 10 cents a gallon on gas is less than what you spend on your cell phone.
I spend less than $100 a year on my cell phone, so.
Well, maybe not your cell phone, Jim, but the average person.
Brandon, how would you go about finding somebody that's, with the way the workforce is today,
Yeah.
how can you find somebody that'll fit that position that you're wanting to?
Well, and
Cover.
that could be tricky. Kevin and I have talked about this. We have a couple guys in mind in the department that we feel could do the job. But, part of this job is dealing with landowners and dealing with contractors. And, I mean, that, at times, that is it's the mentally toughest part of the job, is especially some landowners. They don't want to or can't understand, the process, or, why we can't just drain every square inch of their property all the time. It's, that's not our responsibility. So we think we have a couple guys that could do the job. whether they would want to or not is the thing. And that's another thing that was proposed for, you know, a solution up here is could we just find someone part-time, hire someone part-time? Well, if you're going to hire a part-time individual for the engineering department only, then now you're talking county general, and I just, like you mentioned, you know, at 2.3% unemployment, I think that would be hard to find someone that would be committed to the position in a part-time capacity. So,
Along with Kim's question on it, if you promote in-house on it to another position, would you have trouble then finding a truck driver or an operator?
well, we've been lucky so far. I mean, we have been lucky so far. We've, you know, replaced several. You know, we had, operator that retired. We had another young man that moved on to a different endeavor, and so I have personally interviewed and hired 3 guys down there, and we've gotten lucky. We've got a great crew down there, every one of them, and so I mean, until you ask for resumes and applications, you don't know what you're going to get. And you know, I mean, I quite frankly, if we don't get good applicants, there's nothing saying we have to hire somebody. We can wait a few months and try again, you know. I'd rather do that than hire someone that's questionable, has a questionable work history, or just, you know, appears in questionable in personality or demeanor or whatnot.
Well, I felt when he asked for a truck driver before, I was in favor of that, and I still am. Partially, easy enough because it's not out of county general fund, which is the thing that we're supposed to be watching out for primarily. And second, you're gonna use that person for a job that would come out of the general fund.
I'm seeing this, of course, through my glasses, but I'm seeing this as a win-win-win, because we're getting some assistance up here. We're getting an additional, you know, person in the wintertime, and you know, that person isn't always going to be helping our field man. You know, they might be helping with a pipe crew, or helping with hauling stone, or, you know, whatever. It's just that one more body. You know, we went through, and of course I wasn't here, but Kevin was. In 1994, there was 24 full-time employees at the highway department. Right now, we have 22. So, I mean, just by those numbers, I mean, that's another thing to consider. You know, we're doing more with less, and if we could get a little more, we could do that much more.
Well, I can't determine how many people you need. That's your job, and I don't understand it. But I think if he needs them to operate what we're doing efficiently, I think it'd be smart of us to do that. We'd be covering 2 things without looking with the general fund, one thing.
And I think that's a very real conversation that we're going to need to have, and I don't know what the value of maybe having that conversation today is without you actually asking us for a position, and then we'll have the discussion and put it to vote, unless you're asking us to do that today. I think that we've all got enough information on that I don't see the usefulness in spending a lot of time debating that today.
Well,
Did you have a comment, George?
Yeah, I just would like to say that the commissioners have looked into this, into the need, and that yesterday we provided a favorable pass to the council for an additional drainage project assistant.
Yeah, Thor, just one thing. Yesterday, we approved 7 or 8 easements. And this session that Brandon's talking about, would be one of them inspectors that if somebody didn't look at it when all the easements are being done, and you know, that's a summer job that mostly happens really busy in the summer, and that'd just be another thing. Well, 7 or 8 in 1 month, that takes a lot of time from Mike, that he's got other drainage thing, and that was kind of our thinking, and that's the.
And I would
and
say
that
that-
underground easement cuts continuously, grows all the time in this county.
And I would say, you know, in response to that, that I am in favor of it also. It's just, I think that we need to either move forward with you asking for it today and putting it to vote, or just bringing it back to us with all the details that you want us to know. But I don't know if it's a good use of time to have the entire discussion today if we're not going to move on it. I think we all understand the project and that you need it.
Well, I mean, certainly if there, you know, would be a majority vote, I would, you know, like to move forward with the process. You know, I haven't formally presented a job description yet. I would
And I
like to
guess
have at
that's-
least some kinds of a consensus to, you know, I don't want to put a lot of effort into something that's going to end up in nothing. I've got other things to spend my time on. If it's not going to happen, just tell me. If you'll consider it with more information, you know, all these things that we're talking about today, I realize it hinges on, you know, can it be funded? Is the money there? You know, this isn't my first rodeo. I know, and that's why I didn't come today asking for any decisions. I wanted to give you information. I wanted to hear some questions, and if there are concerns, and I'm fine with continuing this until the next meeting. I mean, if
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that either. We kicked it around ever since last budget time, and sooner or later, we're gonna have to make a decision.
My position will be this: you come back with some numbers. I support you pursuing some numbers,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna say, yes, I'm gonna vote for it till I see the numbers.
sure, that's
I may
fair.
vote no, but
I
I certainly would encourage you to submit some numbers, some hard numbers, on all of it, the building and the whole
Absolutely,
thing.
absolutely. And
Yeah,
that-
I agree with that 100%.
And I feel the same way on it. I think you should go ahead and prepare what you're going to ask for, show me where the money's coming from, and go from there.
And say, well, I wanna know a salary, like for another person, I wanna know what that's gonna be.
For sure.
Or, you know, it doesn't have to be exact, but I wanna know it's gonna be this to this, right in that range, and
Yeah.
before I say yes to something, I'm not going just for a blank check situation.
Well, no, I've never asked for that, and I wouldn't expect you to. But, you know, that's part of the process, you know, and I realize that we have to go through that. Job description, evaluation, establish salary.
If we would do that, I presume that you'd be a truck driver.
Bottom line, yes,
So that
it would,
pretty much
it would-
established his pay.
it would be essentially, yeah, a truck driver or operator, type position with the highway department that part-time works on drainage matters. Yeah, that's my thinking, and again, I'm seeing it as a win-win-win. We've got needs in a couple different areas, and if we can find the right person, and, you know, I'll work on that too, but if we can find the right person, I think I'm gonna say it's a relatively cheap fix to multiple problems, you know. So with all this, you know,
We'd have to also deal with whatever classification or job description that person would have.
sure.
If it's
And-
something other than just truck driver, you're gonna have to have it evaluated and come up with.
Right, and I've got the job description right here. I just haven't put it on paper. You know, I mean, the majority of my time in this last month, you know, I wasn't here at your last meeting because I was at road school, but we've been working on our 2018 road plan. You know, what are we gonna do this year? Because it's April, and another month and a half, we're gonna be getting started chip sealing, so we gotta know what we're doing, so. I will continue to, again, I'll work with Jana, and if any, I mean, I've met a little bit with Thor and Kim, Chad, Jim, anyone, Bill, any one of you, Glenn, John, I'll come to your place. I mean, you want me to come up at, before you eat dinner, or meet somewhere and have breakfast, and I can bring all this stuff and we can look at the hard numbers. I know it's a lot to deal with in a meeting, but it's all interconnected is why I had to kind of just throw it all at you at once.
And on that roundabout, with our people, how much are they involved in that? Is it done by outside contractors mostly, or are our people heavily involved in that?
Oh, no, we're not.
Somebody else-
You mean our highway
Yeah.
department employees? Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, no, other than.
Pulling some stuff, yeah?
No.
Don't do anything?
No. Our only involvement is, we're notifying, dispatching schools when the road's closed. I'm spending time to be the representative, like I said, on construction meetings and progress
That
meetings.
doesn't take any time away from other projects for our guys?
Absolutely, no, not one bit. Not one bit. Now, that's not to say that we might have some immeasurable increase in patching to do on the roads that people are gonna, detour on. But there's no way to quantify that. We'd have to do that anyways, and people gotta go somewhere. So I'm just kinda not thinking about that. We'll deal with that as it comes. But we are not, it's E and B contractors, very well qualified. They are the prime contractor. Fox Contractor, I know, is a very qualified excavating company. They're doing the dirt work. So, yeah, it's a federal aid project. It's actually oversaw by NDOT, Allen County's the lead agency. We're letting them deal with all the headaches, and we're just chipping in a few cents to be partners. Oh, real quick.
Wait for that.
We need to create a new fund. Right now, we have local road and street and highway. We need to create a new fund, because the new state laws say that you have to spend 50% of your MVH fund on the construction, reconstruction, and preservation of your roads. Legislators absolutely don't want winter operations to be included in that, and they really don't want salaries and benefits to be included in that. I'm also brainstorming some database upgrades to deal with that. But that will be another request that I bring to you next month, will be an ordinance to create a new fund that will separate wheel tax, buggy plates, driveway permits, these other miscellaneous revenue sources from the MVH. And that's what I'm hearing from State Board of Accounts, is if you do that and only put MVH money in your MVH fund, then you're only committed to that at 50%. And essentially the other can be used for buying salt and ice grit and paying for administrative costs and those things. That'll be painless.
Yeah.
Other than we'll have another budget come budget time, but we need to get that fund created and start getting that revenue flow away from our MVH fund.
And that's 50% of,
Yes, 50% of the MVH. Right now, with everything going into the MVH, the highway fund, they're saying we have to spend 50% of all of that money towards those things. So that one, it'll be another budget for you to approve and review, but compared to $400,000 or $500,000 salt building, that'll be painless. That's good news, see? Good news.
to give you a little heads up, Brandon, we're closed next month, so.
Okay, well, I'll be here in June then. Thanks for the heads up, I appreciate that. Closed for business. I know it was a lot, I apologize. It'll be all right, trust me, it'll be all right.
I appreciate all you presented.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is extension update with Cindy Barnett, please. And Cindy, if you would, when you come up in the microphone, introduce who you are and who you represent, please.
Thank you.
I think I've seen
No, you went to the other night. I saw you was out to the Women's Republican thing, I saw a picture of you and Steve Jessup. Was he talking to you? He had a picture on, I saw on Facebook. Who was up there? Huh? Who was up there? Oh, Steve Jessup represents talking to you. I saw Bill talking, I saw a picture of him standing there talking to you.
Good morning. I'm Cindy Barnett with the Extension Office, Department Head. So I try to come about once a year, shortly after our annual meeting, just to kind of give you an update of what's going on at the Extension Office. So we did have our annual meeting a couple of weeks ago. The purpose of that is to just essentially report to the clientele what we're doing, and then we also elect new board members at that time. Our program for the annual meeting rotates every year, so this year we focused on the 4-H program. Next year it will be time for the Ag program, and then the following year we'll focus on the program I work closest with, Health and Human Sciences. So at the annual meeting, we always put together this little brochure, which is just a small snippet of some of the programming that we do, just to give everybody an idea of the different kinds of programming that we do, the different audiences that we reach. And then for the annual meeting, we usually spend at least a half an hour, 45 minutes, focusing on, in this year, which was the 4-H program. As you know, Todd Geiger's been with us for about 2 years now, and he's been really focusing on some of the non-traditional activities that we can add to the 4-H program, and so he's been putting a lot of emphasis on STEM, and he's put together a team of high school kids that have been going into the elementaries and doing a lot of STEM activities, and so that's what we did at the annual meeting. The kids set up 7 different stations, and the audience just went around to the different stations. It was all hands-on. Did you enjoy it, Bill?
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. So, and Chad and Bill were there, so thank you for coming and appreciate that. So on the brochure, I thought I would just go through that with you just briefly. If you open it up on the inside, there are 3 extension educators, and we are so excited to have John full-time. He's been doing good stuff already, so thank you for that support. We have 2 secretaries, and we have 2 program assistants. One program assistant is with us year-round, and the other one comes in for 3 months during the summer. So some of the programming that we do have a research farm in Whitley County. It's Purdue Research Farm that's down off of Highway 9 south of town, and we do a lot of partnering with them for at least some of the ag programming. The junior leaders are a group of 7th to 12th graders in the 4-H program, and so we really work with them to try to grow their leadership skills and improve some of their life skills. And that is the group right now that Todd has really been focusing on to help lead some of these STEM activities. We have over 200 4-H volunteers. They do have to go through it seems like sometimes a pretty rigorous process to become a volunteer, but we have to have applications and we do background checks every year. And they also have to complete forms that say, they're called adult behavioral expectation forms, which essentially means they'll act like adults. But we have to do that every year. And we also provide a lot of training for our volunteers. And each year, there's at least one area-wide workshop that we invite all of the volunteers to participate in. And this year, the 9 counties in Northeast Indiana put together a 4-H board roundtable. And we invited all of we focused on fair boards, but it was also 4-H councils, just to come in and talk about, what we do in Whitley County and what Noble County does, and share some common concerns and hopefully some common answers. So that's always a good workshop. The Extension Homemakers is an organization in Whitley County which is mostly women. We do have 1 man. We have 10 clubs that meet for educational purposes throughout the year. Their focus is education, but they also do a ton of community service work, and they do a lot of supporting of 4-H scholarships. All of those clubs meet on a monthly basis, and they are scattered out throughout the whole county. One of the certification programs that John works with is the Pesticide Applicator Program. So he offers at least 2 trainings a year to help farmers keep certified, as well as our commercial applicators. Last year, I focused a lot of my educational programs in the area of nutrition. We used to have a part-time nutrition education program assistant. We had her just on grant funds, and we no longer have that position. So there's no way that I was able to reach all of the audiences that she used to reach, but we continue to get requests. So I tried to fill some of those positions. But foods is the topic that I get more requests for than anything else. Foods and nutrition and food safety kind of topics. Captain Cash is one of the fun programs that we do going into the elementary schools. We work with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in the area of financial literacy. So, Serve Safe is a certification program that I work with. State of Indiana, as of 2005, requires that all retail food establishments have at least 1 certified food handler on staff. And so I work with the Serve Safe program. We offer that class 2 or 3 times a year. We also offer, I'm also certified to teach as well as proctor the exam. And so the 9 counties of us in Northeast Indiana, we work together. And so we have scheduled at least 1 test spot every month where somebody can at least go and take the exam. And in most months, we also offer at least 1 class. So we partner with the Indiana State Board of Health as well as the Indiana Restaurant Association to offer this training. We have chosen Serve Safe. There are lots of different curriculums, but we think it's the friendliest curriculum to teach as well as for the students to learn with.
So they have to take a test?
Yes.
And then if they do not pass, they have to take it over?
Yep, sure do. Certification is good for 5 years. And we have found, we all use the same curriculum. We teach it in about 3 different formats. So depending upon people's schedule and how they learn, sometimes we get people in that haven't sat in a classroom for 20, 30, 40 years, and so they really struggle. It's a very intense course. For those that are certifying for the first time, if they come to a class, there's an 89% chance they'll pass the exam the first time around. If they just say, I'll study on my own, or I've been in the restaurant business for 20 years, I know this stuff, it drops down to about 59% passing on the first time around. So it's tough, it's intense, but their certification is good for 5 years then. And then for those of us that teach as well as proctor the exam, we have to recertify every 3 years. So, and I do have a class coming up in May. So, Master Gardeners is a group I'm sure most of you have heard of. Great group of people that do a lot of work to beautify the community, do a lot of educational programs. They work all over the county. And then on the back page, 4-H facts. For our annual meeting, whichever program that we focus on, we always just give you some extra facts. The best news, I guess, is last year our 4-H enrollment was 777, I think it was for sure. We're over 800 this year so far. So that program is growing, and our cutoff deadline's May 15th, so we're still hoping we'll get a few more people in. Switching gears just a little bit on the single sheet. Every month, we have to submit numbers of every person that we've talked to, every program that we've taught. We have to submit just all kinds of data. So I just took just a few items from our year-end report. Last year, between John, Todd, and I, we individually taught 188 different educational programs. Those educational programs, in order to count, you have to have at least 10 people in the audience, and they must be at least a half an hour long. We also taught 54 different programs as a team, and that doesn't mean the 3 of us, but that means at least one of us and one other educator teamed up together. So as an example, when I teach Serve Safe, the educator from Allen County comes in, and we always team teach that. So that would be considered a team program. And those programs averaged about 2 hours apiece. When we look at the number of direct contacts that we've made, and those are people that actually come to class, they sit in a class, we can see them, they write their name on the attendance sheet. Almost 6,500 people. Of those, 99% are considered non-Hispanic. 98% of our direct contacts are white. For the other activities, consultations are those people that either call on the phone or they walk in the office and they say, I have a question. Usually those are one-on-ones. So we had 770 of those last year. 3 of those people brought a friend with them. So instead of a one-on-one, it was a two-on-one. The 3 of us served on 106 different community committees last year, and we wrote 140 news releases. So that's your year in review.
Thank you.
We invite you anytime to come to any of our programs. You should all get a copy of our newsletter. So you're always welcome to come and listen, participate, come and visit us in the office, and we certainly appreciate your support. Questions?
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you.
And again, that then brings us to our commissioner report, and George, if you would, I mean, I know everybody here knows you, but introduce yourself and tell them what you do.
I'm George Schrump, Whitley County Commissioner, District 2, and I am Chair of the Commissioners this year. The only thing I have is I have a couple of items. Last year we approved through the Commissioners and the Council internet service. We wanted to provide internet service not only to the TIF area, but growing out into the rural areas. We approved $150,000 through CEDAR funds for that last year. John Myers and the commissioners have been working with different entities to work this out. Right now, we have got an agreement with Indiana Fiber Network, which is who Parkview has been using to bring fiber to all their different doctor's offices. So we've been able to cut that cost down to $80,000 out of CEDAR, and then redevelopment is going to pay for another $80,000. So we've cut that in half, the cost that we're going to need for that. So good news on that. That'll start in June, and they'll be working on the US 30 area to start. We're looking at maybe providing a wireless service for the rural areas out of that once we get that the TIF area involved. And then REMC has been interested in working with us also. So a lot of good things, and that internet service is really needed in the county. The only other thing I have is update on the healthcare loan. We did get the $150,000 from our trust account because our employees have been doing a great job holding the costs down. Our trust account is up over, I think, right around $380,000 right now, which is great. We try to hold it right around the $200,000 to $250,000 range for a surplus. That's been good. So we took the $150,000. We've got the approved for $100,000 through our CEDAT plan to finish that out. April 16th, that will be paid off. We'll be done and over with that. And that's all I have right now.
Any questions?
Any news on the Personnel Committee meetings?
Yeah, we had a personnel committee meeting, and it was really more of a trying to get a structure together for the personnel committee and a purpose. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? We do have another meeting coming up this month. I can't remember.
I believe the 25th.
25th. Okay.
Third.
But towards the end of the month, we've got another meeting coming up, and I think what we're going to do as personnel committee, we're going to actually, we're going to work with the department heads to look at the job descriptions and basically work with the duties and the responsibilities, make sure that any duties that we show as a responsibility, and that way we don't have people opening mail as a responsibility and duty. It just, and we're going to take department at a time rather than trying to look at everything. We've got a couple of departments that we want to deal with, but I think it's going to be a good benefit for us. We've got a structure for the pay that we're looking at, and I think the big thing out of that is we understand that our pay scale is not something that we have a problem with. I think we're right in the ballpark in the median with our pay scale. So it's all good. It's really good and good committee. So looking forward to getting that going, and we'll be working with council a lot on that. And I think in the interim, council probably is going to have to work with maybe people like Brandon to make sure that if we have to fund something right now, but because it'll be a while for us to get done with our part of that. But we're going to do it little by little.
What's our status with this consultant?
He gave us information, all the information on a salary range and a basic job description for everything, and that's what we're going to base everything off of is going through everything and making sure that that we really go through the job descriptions and make sure that the fluff is out of the job descriptions. Like I say, somebody that says that they open the mail, and how often do you open the mail? And then, and if they're if the department head is gone, that they take over for the department head. Well, how often does that happen? If it's just once a year, or, we've got to just be careful about the job descriptions, that we don't put things in the job descriptions that truly aren't a major part of the job description. So
Are we still going to be involved with him, or have we terminated him, or what?
We'll be involved with him a little bit, but I'm not sure. Right now, we've got about $12,000 that we've spent with him, and I'm not sure. That's one thing we're looking at, is the value of keeping going with him once we've got this set now. Whether we, is it worth another $12,000, $15,000 to work with him, or is it now we've got enough information that
We're not obligated to continue if we don't want to.
No.
But we did find out that the employees of Whitley County is among the
Better compensated.
better.
I kind of surmised that.
So we're right on. It's good. Good to know that.
And we've got a great benefit package. That's
Yeah.
one thing that we did talk about. It's not only what the salaries are, but what our benefit package is also. That's about it.
Any other questions for George?
Yeah, George, I got a question for you, and I know you're probably not going to want to hear this, but all that stuff that Brandon's asked him for, if he finds out that not all that's covered, is there anything that we can do out of the CEDAP plan to help him?
Well, I think the only
since
thing
it's
that,
dealing with,
yeah.
roads.
We're getting tight on the CETA plan because of paying for this health plan and everything else, but the one thing that was, he was talking about the roundabout, and in 2012, commissioners met with the Allen County Commissioners, and that $100,000 was supposed to be a 3-year payout that we had $30,000 a year that we were supposed to do. Well, we paid the first payment, but they never sent invoices for that, and that was supposed to be out of CETA. So if he does come up short on that 60,000, I think that's something that could come out of CETA. But right now, we're to the max on CETA. We still got a good surplus, but without going into our surplus,
Right.
we've got a good program for and I will tell you real quick, the good news is, I talked to Mark Sturdivant the other day, the jail plumbing issue, it was budgeted at right around $90,000. He's thinking he may be 30 or 40,000, maybe half for the jail right now. So good news there, because of the fact that he budgeted from one person's quote, now he's getting quotes for different places and getting some good prices.
Anything else of George?
Just like to say thanks for all you guys do.
Thank you. It's interesting.
Brings us to the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last month? And if so, I would entertain a motion.
I'll have to abstain because I never received anything in the mail.
I'll have to abstain as well, because I had no idea what was printed out.
I went up and picked it up yesterday at the auditor's office, and I read it. Maybe I can't get a second for it, but I moved to approve them as it's
I
presented.
abstained because I wasn't here.
Okay, at this time, I think we're going to postpone the approval of March's minutes until next month, so everybody has a chance to review those and to make sure that they're an accurate account of what actually happened at the meeting. So those have been, that issue will be on the agenda for next month, please. For the approval of this month's minutes and the last month's minutes. Councilman Barrett, do you have anything to do?
I have nothing.
Councilman Overdeer? Councilman Bayman? Councilman LaRue?
No,
Councilman Wheeler?
no.
Vice Chair Banks?
No, sir.
And I have nothing. The meeting is adjourned.